Hello there everyone, welcome back to another Star Wars Unlimited video. So sorry for the lack of uploads recently. I've been doing a lot of travelling and it's just been a bit manic, but I am back and I'm fresh off of a PQ yesterday at the time of this recording. I'm pretty happy with how it went. So now that we are about 30 seconds into the video, I can reveal my deep dark secret to you. I did not actually go 15-1 because 2 of those were IDs. But it is true that I did drop only 1 game the whole day. So you might be wondering, how did you only make top 4 if you only dropped 1 game the whole day? The answer is I had a prior commitment in the evening on Saturday, which is when the PQ was, which I was already late for. And I couldn't be any later. The PQ started at 11:30 and I left at like 8 PM or something, 8:15, after the second game of my top 4 match where we were 1-1. And I just couldn't stay any longer, unfortunately, which sucked, but it is what it is. I think there was a pretty good shot of me taking down the whole thing because the finals would have been against Quinn and Tarkentown if I managed to win game 3, which is pretty favoured for this deck. So, but it is what it is. It's fine. My opponent was really nice, great chap, and ended up winning the whole thing. So, you know, can't really complain. My literal only game loss, being to the winner, is not too bad. But there we go. So I will give you the full run through and everything of the PQ in a bit. But before that, let's talk about the deck. So I just wanted to sort of show the promo here. It's quite nice. I don't know if you can see the foiling there very well, but it's pretty nice. So that's 2 down and 1 more for the full playset. So I was playing Kylo ECL. For those of you who don't know what this does, Kylo has the ability you can tap him on his leader side and discard a card. If you do, and it's an upgrade, you may draw a card. The fact you can discard anything is relevant. And then when he deploys on 7 as a 5/5 Sentinel, which is not amazing, but sometimes is enough to get you there. 5 attack is a lot. And when deployed, you may play any number of upgrades from your discard onto this unit. So he is a big boy. He gets very large very quickly. We are Voltroning. So that is the leader, and then ECL I think needs no introduction. And I like the idea of being able to ECL in the 2 new best units in the game that are both 6 drops that are both in blue-black. So yeah, very fun. Let's go ahead and get into the actual deck list, and I'll try and lay it all out in one place. So we'll start off with the units and then we'll move on to the upgrades because I think that's pretty important to understand. And I'll tell you right now, there's a bunch of one-offs in this deck because the 50 is hedged and then the 60 has sort of tools for everything. So let's begin with our 2 drops, and we begin with, also the deck is super shiny and I wanted to show this off. So we have 3 Dr. Pershings. We start very strong. This card's crazy. You want to see this against mid-range. You want to see this against control as you turn on play. But it's also quite nice against Boba 4 because it is just going to soak 5 HP. Against Boba 4, you don't actually want to use him because you want him to just soak up all the indirect damage. But yeah, he's very good. Very, very good card. We love drawing cards, and he's also a great Power of the Dark Side insulator because he's only 2 costs, which means that he fits really well into what you're trying to do at various points in your curve. However, I think in this deck, this is the better turn 1 play, which is Inferno 4 or Inferno 4. I made card market orders, and even though I selected English, some cards showed up in not English. So here we are. We have our Italian Inferno 4, which to be honest, I like more. Inferno 4 is hilarious. This card's crazy, honestly. In the context of Kylo, it's so good because you have so much additional consistency in the discard upgrade draw. That means you can often actually make use of this knowledge. So there were, I mean, genuinely a significant number of situations, not on turn 1, but later in the game, where you will play Inferno 4, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and go, oh, that's exactly what I needed. It was the second card. Let me put that on top, and then let me use Kylo ability, and now I will draw it, and now I will play it. It's just really, really fantastic. And then obviously, like, great Power of the Dark Side insulation. It's a space unit. This deck steroils into space, so this at least makes it potentially winnable, which is always nice. And yeah, it's just a great unit, honestly. Just a really, really good card. So yeah, the turn 1 plays in this deck are absolute gas. Okay, on to our 3 drops, of which there are only 6. I'll begin with Super Laser Tech, which I'm not going to talk about anymore. You guys know this card's good. 1 copy of General Grievous, the one-offs begin, and then I'll also just say quickly, 2 copies of Supremacy TIE SF, this is our Sentinel ship. You could make a Grievous, this Grievous, the Supremacy TIE SF, but I really like the one-off Grievous. First off, it's 4 attack, which is kind of big, it's kind of nice, and I like it because... well, first off, so a bunch of things. First off, it's just very well statted, so it can just deal a lot of damage, it can answer a lot of things. I did previously have more copies of this in here when Han 2 was everywhere, because this was a pretty good ECL on turn 2. If you just claimed turn 1, and then just went, okay, ECL this in, I kill your 2/4, you now play something, I'm killing whatever it is, unless it's a 3/5, I guess. But in that case, you are vulnerable to Power of the Dark Side or whatever on the next turn. And basically, it's just a way to kind of keep them off the Force token. So it did kind of come up. Generally, though, this has just been a nice little beat stick, honestly. Like, it's just been good. It's come up. It's just a nice thing to just play out Insulation Power of the Dark Side. Just a good card. You could probably make it a Supremacy TIE SF, honestly. I think that would be fine. But I like the one-off Grievous. It's cute. It also kind of throws people off when you're actually playing, sort of thing. Okay, then we come on to the 3 best cards in the deck. So we'll start with 3 copies of Rey from set 2. Oh my god, this card is insane. The more and more I play with this card, the more unbelievably busted it is. So as a 4/7, it's really annoying to remove. It's very sticky. It also shields everything else in the deck, and it heals it, of course. And so the plays you can do, like, you are happy just hard playing this for 5. Because you're usually ramping, your opponent's on 4 resources. They can spend a bunch of resources or a bunch of cards to remove this card. Or if they let it live, your next turn you're going to blow them out with whatever you ECL in, because then suddenly Rey is going to then shield whatever it is. This card's just absolutely nuts. And of course, it's Heroic Aspect for Anakin, which turns that on. Yeah, just genuinely, like, such a busted card that we get to play. And another reason why Kylo is the best Anakin deck, because you get to play actual good cards, and you're not playing an aspect penalty. Like, this is just 5. Like, this is just a 5-cost card, and it's insane. It's so strong. Yeah, just truly a crazy card. Next, we have what I previously thought was the best card of set 5. 3 copies of Darth Vader. Of course, I had to get the Silver Pack Vaders. This card is insane, just so strong. Like, this is God's strongest 2-for-1. My favorite thing to do is if you do play a Rey the turn before, you then ECL Darth Vader in, give Rey the shield. Vader then takes the damage, and if they don't immediately answer either Vader or Rey, you then get to swing with Rey, heal up the Vader, and give it a shield, which is just disgusting. Like, such a back-breaking play when it happens, and it happens a lot more than you would think. And then, what I now believe to be the best card in set 5, Anakin Skywalker. My god, this card is unbelievably good. It's truly just insane. If Vader is God's strongest 2-for-1, Anakin is God's strongest 3-for-1. This card is like the sole reason you win so many matchups. Like, genuinely, the ability to go wide with the ability is so busted. 7 HP is also incredibly relevant, not least of all because it means that he doesn't die to himself. He's just an unbelievably good card. Like, genuinely so good. I love this card, and this is the reason to play Kylo ECL. If you want to be ECLing in these bad boys, that's the reason you play the deck. And if you don't, then you can play Data Vault, or you can play Kylo Talking Town or something, if you don't care about that. Often you don't even need to ECL them in. Like Vader, obviously you do, but like Anakin, you can just hard play Anakin. It's fine. Rey, you can just hard play Rey. It's fine. Yeah, these cards are just nuts. And then we have our main deck, remaining top end, 1 Reinforcement Walker, 1 Supreme Leader Snoke, and 1 Avenger. So, why the one-offs? I'll sort of come onto it more in the sideboard, but basically these are all useful in different matchups, and in Star Wars you draw 2 cards a turn, and you have the choice of resourcing, which means that, like, these cards are rarely do-nothings. They're only do-nothings where you have nothing useful in your hand, and then you draw both of these cards, and neither of them do anything in the situation, right? Which could happen, right? You can imagine going into your 6-resource turn, and your hand is like Super Laser Technician, Inferno 4, and then you draw Reinforcement Walk, Extreme Leader Snoke. Yeah, that's not great, but in that situation, if these were just other versions and I was hedging for a particular matchup, that wouldn't fix it either, so that's not really a reason. So instead, what I have really been enjoying is playing one of each of these in the main deck. And then there is therefore, yes, I'm less likely to see any individual copy, but I have a 0% chance of seeing it if it's not in the main deck game 1. And there's therefore a chance that a card I really want to see, for example, I mean, I think the most obvious one here is Snoke. Like, Snoke, I genuinely really want to see into go-wide strategies and against space decks. Like, this can just lock down the game and let me win, like, or at least get me back into the game enough that by the time they deal with it, like, I'm in a winning position. I really need to see this game 1. However, I don't know whether or not a meta I'm going into is actually going to require me to have this in the main deck. And if I don't need it in the main deck, it's really bad. It's not great into some matchups. So I found that just having a bunch of these one-offs, and we'll sort of come on to them more, and then you'll see in the sideboard where you can make those changes, has felt amazing. I am really happy about it. I thoroughly recommend it. If you don't believe me, just give it a go. Trust the process. You'll see what I mean. But this is sort of the 3 top-end bits at the moment. Okay, let's talk about the upgrades, because that's another really core part of the deck. And this is also where I've made some changes, and I'm really, really happy with those changes. So we'll start off with 2 copies of Entrenched. This has been a bit of a game changer. I had these in an old version of the list, and they went out, and then a bunch of stuff has happened, but now that I've put them back in, God, this card is just amazing. Not least of which because it allows you to actually play Overwhelming Barrage to do something in this deck. One of the biggest issues I was finding, and basically I wish I'd taken this deck list to Galactics. I think there was a chance I could have won that first round if I had, which then maybe would have led to something different. But anyway, me taking a bad list to Galactics is neither here nor there. One of the biggest issues is the way the deck plays is when you ramp, it can be really, really hard to barrage. And even when you don't ramp, I was finding that, well, it's just a bit awkward. You'll never really do anything that good. However, what happens, what I found to happen is now in this deck, I play something on turn 1, I play something on turn 2, and then on turn 3, I can entrench one of the things that's still alive. It's really big. I can then play another upgrade onto it, like a Legal Authority or a Devotion, and the next turn, it's the strongest barrage target ever, and your opponent's usually not going to have dealt with it. So you can imagine, if I go Inferno 4, Supremacy Tie into space decks, and then I entrench the Supremacy Tie or something, oh my god, that's really scary. More often, I'll actually entrench the Inferno 4, because they're already going to want to be killing this, but now they have this another annoying thing to deal with. And then, when you entrench it, it becomes a barrage for 7, which is crazy, or 8 if you put a Devotion on it. Which is another reason I'm on Devotion rather than Electro Staff, because it can go onto everything, but anyway, besides the point. Entrench has just been incredible, and obviously there's the general utility of it, slap it onto your opponent's spaceship that you really don't want attacking you, and you just lock it down, and it's very unlikely to be able to do anything, because no one's playing Upgrade Hate now for some reason, except when they are, I guess. Yeah, I'm in love with Entrenched. Very, very happy that I put it back in the list. And Devotion is just insane. This card feels so, so nice. It just lets you stabilize in some situations when you might actually, like, die, which isn't great. Except now with Devotion, you just can get out of those lethal ranges, and it just, honestly, like, with this deck, those 1 or 2 points of HP just mean you get there a lot of the time. And just being able to get that one little restore is really, really valuable. Okay, next, Legal Authority. God, this card is so good. These are the only non-foils in the deck. I may have to get the normal hyperfoils, because the Judge hyperfoils are like £200 each, and that's ridiculous for a Legal Authority, but we'll see. Yeah, this card's just nuts. One big thing. Okay, I guess I'll talk about that in a second, but anyway, yeah, this is super valuable, because you slap onto Kylo, it captures basically anything, but also, what I was saying, if you entrench one of your units and then it becomes a great Legal Authority target, it's really, really good. And then the rest of the upgrades, we have 2 Jedi Lightsaber. This sometimes does get played, because it makes Kylo pretty big, but often you're just discarding it to turn on Anakin. And there's your 5 heroic targets you can see out of every single Anakin-based deck. you have the best ones because you have a unit that you're happy to play, and you have a card that you can also actually play, but is also just free filter fodder. So yeah, just really, really good. 3 copies of Craving Power. We all know how insane Overwhelming Barrage at home is, except it's kind of better because it stays forever. And Barrage often is only hitting one thing, except for when you really need it not to, but you need to hit multiple things. But a lot of the time it is hitting one thing, so yeah, this card's absolutely crazy. And then another one of God's Strongest One-Ofs in Traitorous. This is just another card I just couldn't bear to cut, and I'm at 51. It overperforms a lot. Like, it really does. And especially with it being a one-of, it's just the kind of thing where the opponent's like, am I really going to hold the out for the one-of? And then they hold it and you don't have it, and they don't hold it and you do have it. That's how it always works. But yeah, this card has just overperformed massively. It's just a very, very good card. So those are the units and the upgrades. Now, the thing I want to say about the upgrades is, one thing that separates a bad Kylo player from a good Kylo player is actually thinking about when to discard upgrades. You don't want to do it all the time. Yes, you want the upgrades in the drop, but you can also get the upgrades in the drop by playing them. That's a completely fine way to do it. Don't just mindlessly throw them into the trash. First off, it costs actions and you can lose initiative that way. But secondly, Legal Authority and Craving Power are really good. You would be happy to play these a lot of the time, and often I would find myself just holding the Legal Authority because I'm like, actually, I want to use this to just capture something on a unit I've already got. Yeah, these cards are just... Turns out, if you play good cards, the cards are good. I don't know what to tell you. It's how it works. Okay, so those are the units, those are the upgrades. Let's now go over the events. We'll start off with 3 copies of Timely Intervention, aka Intervention Opportune. And I'll sort of put these over here. Yeah, we need 3 Timely, guys. You have so many insane targets, especially post-side if you're tiling in Walker, but yeah, you really need the 3 Timelies to guarantee you see them every game because you want to be putting these guys in all the time. One play I've been doing more and more recently is timelying in Rey on 7 instead of just flipping Kylo, because a lot of the time that's kind of just been better and there hasn't been a huge board for me to deal with Kylo. And then that's allowed me to go into an 8 resource turn and maybe do something like flip Kylo Craving Power and have Power of the Dark Side online, for example. Like, these are you want to think about the kind of maths of these things, but or play a 3-drop and now I'm insulated from Power of the Dark Side, for example. These sorts of things, or or play a 6-drop and then flip Kylo and Legal Authority or Devotion, or Entrench if you just need a big body to sit there and soak up damage for you. It's also entirely valuable. You can do that. So yeah, anyway, really, really good. 3 copies of Resupply. I'm not explaining Resupply. 3 copies of Power of the Dark Side. I'm not explaining Power of the Dark Side. 2 copies of No Glory Only Results. This card is pretty underrated, I feel like, but it does a lot of work. It's kind of your best removal. Because it just hits everything. Yes, it costs 5, but like there's a lot of also, like, I've discovered kind of random niche situations where the stealing comes in. For example, stealing a Snoke and then getting to coincidentally board wipe your opponent sometimes happens, right? Like, there's just things like that come up. Yeah, this card's just fantastic. I kind of want 3, but I really can't justify going up to 52. Well, maybe I can. I don't know. We'll see. 2 copies of Barrage. I'm glad this, with these changes, this card finally feels at home in the 50 rather than in the sideboard, which is great. And then 1 copy of Super Laser Blast. Because again, now with Entrench, there's sort of more of a reason, and it's also just generally like quite a useful thing to have. Some matchups you do just want to have the Blast available. In other matchups you don't, so I like just having it there. Okay, so this is the main deck. I think it feels amazing. It is 51 cards. If you wanted to cut one of the one-ofs, you could. I think they're all great. The most cuttable, I would say, would be Grievous, but like, I want units, so I wouldn't really want to cut it just because I want as many units as I can fit, really. Okay, so now you've seen this, go ahead, take your screenshot, and let's get onto the sideboard. So, the sideboard is basically all for control. Pretty much all for control, but first off, I'll show you the versatile bit. So, 1 Reinforcement Walker, 1 Supreme Leader Snoke, 1 Super Laser Blast, and 1 Avenger. So, you'll see that in the 61, there's 2 of each of these cards. So, in the mid-range matchups, you want Avenger and Reinforcement Walker. Those are the best things you want. against a lot of the aggro decks, and in particular things like space aggro, you want the Snokes and the Laser Blasts. Those are much better. And actually, you want a Palpatine's Return as well, so you can potentially play out Snoke on 6 resources. So that's what you want. And so I like hedging between all of those. And then game 2 and 3, I have as many copies of the one that I need, which is nice. And then, but all of the sideboard really is for control, because frankly, I'm just boarding in 10 cards against control. It feels totally fine. So what else am I putting in against control? Well, 2 copies of Palpatine's Return. I'm also putting this in against the space decks and things like that, because I want to be getting out Snoke as fast as possible. So it actually does come up. And against space aggro, like Vader's useless. So Vader's are often going out, and then 2 of the, and then the Avenger and the Reinforcement Walker go out. Laser Blast Snoke come in, 2 Vaders come out, 2 Palpatine's Returns come in, and then usually I put in some Vigilance as well, just so I get some healing. But yeah, so 2 Vigilances, and a restock, obviously, that's so we don't lose to mill, which does come up, and we can actually engage with the mill game plan. And finally, my spiciest tech, 1 Shadowed Intentions. This lets you just go really, really long, because it turns out a Shadowed Intentions Kylo kind of can't die to anything. Nothing is dealing that much damage to him outside of like a Devastator or something. But the situation in which you want to be playing Shadowed Intentions is you're basically at fatigue, you haven't deployed Kylo, you have 15 resources, and you go, cool, flip Kylo, Jedi Lightsaber, Shadowed Intentions. He's really, really big. Or if you really want to hedge for like a bunch of HP, for example, you can go Shadowed Intentions and go like Devotion, Legal Authority, which is also 15 resources, except it would make Kylo a 7/13, which is very, very large indeed. There's a 7/13. Yeah, I think 7/13. Yeah. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do to try and make Kylo as big as possible, and just then just kill your opponent, just dome them a bunch. But usually, like at that point in the game, if a Devastator's coming down, it's come down. You've usually been through them all, right? But this has just been this has come up. It's been very, very good. I thoroughly recommend it. So this is the whole list. It's a mess, but anyway. Now let me quickly give you a little run of the tournament very briefly. So round 1, I was against Quinlan Talkintown. I took it 2-0. Game 1 was pretty stressful. My opponent did a very good job of aggroing me, and it was quite close. Game 2, my opponent did not open as good a hand. They didn't deal more than 15 damage to me, I don't think. So that was good. Round 2, I was against Thrawn Data Vault, and I expected this to be quite hard, but it turns out this deck just goes really fast, and actually, like, because this deck 2-for-1s minimum, like, on everything it does, it turns out Thrawn actually isn't getting that much value against it, and you kind of just overwhelm them. And then game 2, I just boarded in all 10 cards, so I wasn't losing to fatigue, and then I had that game plan, and then I had top end out the arse, and I was, like, fine. So I won that 2-0 as well. Round 3, I was against Boba for yellow. I expected to lose this. I somehow win 2-0, thanks to my opponent kind of drawing air for a few turns later on in the game, like doing a bunch of damage to me, but then I was kind of able to stabilize. I had one cute play where I flipped Kylo, slapped an entrench on him, and then was able to have this really huge unit that, like, he didn't really want to deal with, but, like, it just soaked up as much indirect damage as I wanted and was, like, the best overwhelming barrage beat stick in the world. So it was just really, really good. So I won round 3 2-0. Round 4, I was against Krennic ECL. This was such a weird matchup. I kind of identified that I was the control, so I was basically like, yeah, just 1-for-1ing or 2-for-1ing my opponent, like, as much as I could, trying not to take too much damage in the early game. Game 1 was stupid close, but basically came to fatigue, and because I'd managed to deal a little more damage to him than he had to me, even though he had units on the board and I didn't, his units were not able to close the damage gap faster than the fatigue damage, which meant that I just about won. So that was very, very close. But then game 2, I boarded in all 10 cards because I was like, because obviously it went to fatigue game 1, so I was like, okay, I think this is a game where I want to be on the mill game plan. And neither of us did any damage to each other. And we were basically going to time, but, like, neither of us had really taken much damage. and my opponent then conceded because he was going to lose in time anyway, but he was also like, there's no way I'm winning this. And I was like, yeah, cool. I have Vigilance restock in hand, which I was about to do that turn. And I had 15 resources. We were both about to mill out, and I had Shadowed Intentions in the drop as well. So I was like, I'm flipping and like, you're not killing me. Like, it was like super, super raps. But it was a very weird matchup, to be sure, where it was just like, oh, I guess I'm the control here. And it was quite fun, actually. It was a really, really fun game. So then I was 4-0 and did the maths, and because it was a 64 player PQ, I could ID twice and get into top 8, so that's what I did. We will leave the discussion on IDs for later. I don't want to get into it. Just leave it there. And then it was top 8. My top 8 match was against Luke from Jump to Lightspeed Data Vault, so I was like, cool, I'm out, and I somehow won 2-0 by seeing 3 Anakins both games, which is just like insane. Like game 2, I was convinced I was cooked because turn 1 I played Inferno 4 and my opponent went, cool, bounty underscore, and I was like, oh no. So then my opponent had like 4 units on the board, like on my 5 resource turn, and I was like, I'm cooked. This is really bad, and I somehow didn't die. I was able to just about stabilize and like get there. I think I entrenched her, one of her things, and then was just able to kind of stick it out till a laser blast, and then like actually be stable from there, which was crazy. I don't know how I did it, but like I played as best I could, and I got quite lucky. So yeah, took that 2-0, and then the top 4, I won game 1 against Bo before. It was against Bo before Data Vault. I won game 1. It was pretty close. Game 2, I lost again, really, really close. But then at this point, as I said at the start of the video, I had to leave because I had a friend's leaving party, and I wanted to see her before she left. So sadly, you know, I had to go. It is what it is. So 1-1, I then conceded. My opponent went on to win the whole PQ, so shout outs to him. Well done. And I'll get him next time. You know, I love this deck. Honestly, I'm making 0 changes. I'm running back this exact list at the next PQ I go to. And yeah, all I have to do is basically pray to dodge space as much as possible, and this deck feels amazing. Dodge space, dodge Sabine, and win. Yeah, thoroughly recommend it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, subscribe to the channel for lots more Star Wars Unlimited content. Let me know what you think of the list in the comment section down below, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Cheers.